I am Joseph, your brother, the one you sold into slavery.
Wow! No way! Joseph?
Don't be afraid, and don't be sad about what you've done, Joseph told his brothers. God has turned evil into good. He was always with me and lifted me up in the land of Egypt. The Lord has brought me to Egypt so that now I can save your lives. Hello, children. Welcome to our last episode in the series, The Life of Joseph. Today, we will take our last trip to the land of Egypt. It's time to find out what Joseph will do about his brothers. Are you ready? Let's go. The famine was spreading both in Egypt and in Canaan, where Joseph's father and his family lived. Jacob was anxiously waiting for his 10 sons to return from Egypt with the food supply they so badly needed. But in Egypt, Joseph's brothers did not recognize him, the one who was now the ruler of all of Egypt. Joseph decided to test them. Pretending not to know who they were, he shouted, "You are all spies," Joseph told his brothers. "And I know you have come to see where our land is unprotected. You plan to come later with an army."
No way. No, we are good men,
the brothers replied. "I need to put you to the test," Joseph said sternly. "I will keep you here in prison while one of you returns home to get your youngest brother. This is how I will test you, and will know if you are telling the truth." And so Joseph commanded the soldiers to take the brothers and put them into prison. And just like that, instead of receiving food, the 10 brothers found themselves thrown into the darkness of an Egyptian prison. On the 3rd day, Joseph commanded his servants to take the 10 brothers out of the prison and bring them back to him. "If you are good people, do as I say and you will live, for I am a God-fearing man," Joseph told his brothers. "One of you will remain in prison, while the rest of you can fill your sacks with grain and take it to your families, so that they may have food to eat and won't starve. Then come back to me and bring your youngest brother with you. What did you say his name is?" "Benjamin." "So, bring Benjamin," Joseph continued. "That way I will know you have been telling the truth and I will not punish you." Joseph's brothers took their bags of grain, loaded them on their donkeys, and set off back home. They traveled for several long days until they finally reached their father's house in Canaan. Jacob breathed a sigh of relief when he saw them coming, as he had anxiously waited for their return. He went out ahead of them and hugged each of them, but soon noticed only 9 out of the 10 brothers returned. So the brothers started telling their father everything that happened to them during their trip to Egypt. Jacob rebuked his sons for leaving Simeon in Egypt, and for also now wanting to take Benjamin away from him as well. He told them, "Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin from me?" Jacob told his sons with tears in his eyes. Jacob did not want to part with his youngest son, fearing that some harm might happen to him too. But famine was widespread in the land of Canaan, and the people suffered greatly because they had nothing to eat. And Jacob's sons had quickly run out of the supply of food they had brought from Egypt. Jacob gathered his sons so he could send them back to Egypt to buy more food. "Father," Judah said as he approached Jacob, "we are not going anywhere without Benjamin, for the ruler of Egypt, the one who sold us the grain, has clearly told us we are not to return to him to buy more food unless our youngest brother comes with us." Jacob was very sad, but he realized he didn't really have any other choice. He sighed. "Get ready for the journey," Jacob told his sons, "and put some of the best fruit of your land in your bags and take it to the man in charge as a gift. Take some balm and a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio nuts and almonds. Take double the amount of silver with you. Take your brother also and go," Jacob continued. "May God Almighty grant you mercy before this man, so you all return home safely. If he wills that I remain childless, his will be done." Jacob's sons took all the gifts their father had told them to and set out for Egypt. Once they reached Egypt and Joseph saw Benjamin coming alongside them, he pulled his servant close and told him, as he pointed to his brothers, "Bring these men into my house. Then prepare a delicious meal on a large table, for I want to invite them to dinner." Joseph's eyes then fell on his brother Benjamin, and he asked, "Is he your youngest brother?" "Yes, master," the brothers answered. "God have mercy on you, my son," Joseph said to Benjamin, holding back his tears as he had not seen him in several years. While the brothers were at Joseph's house for dinner, they presented Joseph with the gifts from their father, and he sold them the grain they needed. Then he sent them home. But before he sent them on their way, Joseph wanted to test his brothers one last time to see if their hearts had changed for the better. So Joseph had his servant put his silver cup into Benjamin's bag of grain without him or any of the brothers knowing. As the brothers were returning home, Joseph's servants followed them, and when they caught up to them, they shouted, "Hey you! Stop at once!" Joseph's men shouted to the brothers. "Why? What's wrong?" the brothers responded. "Yesterday you had dinner with our master, and instead of appreciating his kindness, one of you stole his silver cup." Joseph's servants immediately began searching their bags and found the cup in one of Benjamin's bags. "Here's the thief! We've got him! Tie him up!" Joseph's men shouted. "You will rot in prison. The rest of you are free to go back home to your father." This time, the brothers did not abandon Benjamin like they did with Joseph. Instead, they all went back to Joseph to ask him to forgive them and to let Benjamin return home with them. None of the brothers knew that this was actually a test of their honesty and care for their younger brother. Years ago, Joseph's brothers had sold him into slavery after first wanting to kill him. This time around, their hearts were changed and all they wanted was to save their brother Benjamin. Joseph's heart was touched by how his brothers handled the situation. He realized that his brothers had now changed and regretted their past mistakes. Overwhelmed with all the emotions that he had held inside for all these years, Joseph could no longer contain himself. He decided he could no longer hide who he was, so he looked up and cried out to his brothers, I am Joseph, your brother, the one who you sold into slavery."
Wow! No way! Joseph?
"Don't be afraid and don't be sad about what you've done," Joseph told his brothers. "God has turned evil into good. He was always with me and always lifted me up in the land of Egypt. The Lord has brought me to Egypt so that now I can save your lives." Joseph's brothers froze from the shock of hearing this. They could not believe their eyes. The one who was ruler over all of the land of Egypt and from whom they had come to buy food was in fact their brother Joseph, the one they had sold into slavery and the one they thought was lost forever. "Now stop wasting time," Joseph continued. "Take your donkeys and bags of food and return to our father. Tell him who I am and that God has made me ruler over all of Egypt. Take your children, your wives, and all of your belongings and come live with me in the land of Egypt. Joseph did not treat his brothers with anger or bitterness, but he showed them grace by forgiving them for the wrong they had done to him years before. Joseph's brothers immediately set off for home, full of joy. They were eager to bring the good news to their father. All of the brothers were excited to tell him what God had done through Joseph and were looking forward to leaving their homeland to go live with their brother in Egypt. Joseph was grateful to God for the chance to see his brothers again, and even more grateful for the opportunity to forgive them and help them in their time of need. God can turn a bad thing into a good thing. Whoever loves God always forgives those who hurt them, just as Joseph did with his brothers. Produced by David and Goliath Productions. You can rewatch this episode, along with the rest of this series, on YouTube on the DG Bible Stories channel. Also, you can find our series in audio format on most podcast apps. We invite you to listen to the DG Bible Songs music. You can find it on YouTube, as well as on Spotify, Apple Music, and other streaming platforms.